and welcome to the first review of the channel. These reviews that we'll be having will be based on what everyone in our group thinks. Also with these reviews we'll be taking out some good scenes and some scenes that were bad, and then we'll be putting our own little spin on it. A word of warning as well, these reviews will contain spoilers. So, Paranormal Activity 2, well, as you probably know, it's the sequel to last year's successful film. It is basically the same concept as the first. It records the hauntings of a family, and it's a prequel to the first film, but it's also a sequel in some ways as well. So to outline the story, you have got Christy, who is Katie's sister, and her family is haunted throughout the film. They decide to set up a CCTV security system to see what's happening. As the hauntings get worse, her child is targeted. Later on in the film, Christy then becomes possessed, and the only way they can escape from this demon is to transfer it to Katie. This then leads up to the events of the first film, and after the first film, it cuts back to Paranormal Activity 2, where Katie kidnaps the child and then murders the parents. The good things about this film, the main thing we kind of thought of was the child and the whole theme of him being possessed, which is always scary because children in horror films are always really creepy. One particular scene we liked was when the baby is slowly dragged in its bed, and here's our take on it for you. There are also some really good scares in the film that really catch you out. For example, there's one scene during the daytime when Christy is in the kitchen and suddenly all the kitchen doors and cupboards just fly open in front of her, so some of the scares can really be effective. The presence of the demon in this film is restricted to being a lot more invisible compared to the last one. In the last one you had like footprints and scratches, but in this one it's just an invisible force that drags everyone around, so that's quite spooky and intense. Expanding on the story was a good decision that the filmmakers tried to do because they're exploring more into the mythology of the demon. We find out in this one that Katie and Christy's mother made a deal with the demon, which leads to the demon trying to recall the boy's soul. So it's interesting having that backstory. The bad points of the film, I guess the first thing we can say is that the characters in the film were quite weak and they weren't developed very well. For instance, you've got the father and he's just confined to being the role of the skeptic, so he says stuff like this all the way through the film.
There is no such thing as demons!
The first film is actually more engaging than the sequel. It's because the sequel uses the CCTV instead of the handheld, and this means that we're distanced more from the scares, so it has less of an impact. It's an interesting concept, but the effect, it kind of deadens the scares a little bit because we're not in the personal space of the characters like we were in the first film. Finally, probably the most weakest part of the film is that the ending isn't worth the hype because everyone was waiting for Katie's return. And the problem with the ending, there's no suspense built up. She literally just arrives, kills the parents, and then kidnaps the baby. And then it imitates the first ending of the original film by saying that the baby and the demon has gone missing. So you get that sense of repetition and it's a bit anticlimactic. You would have thought that after the demon got what it wanted, it would have been at least had some sense of achievement instead of it, because all it does is stare at the camera and walks off. Maybe they should have ended it like this. So the film can be a mixed bag really, but surprisingly for a horror sequel it does kind of live up to the original film and it does, do it justice. It really just has a bit of a weak storyline, but there are some genuinely good scares in it. Thank you for watching and please subscribe. We'll be having a Saw 3D review coming up soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. We also have a Facebook group, so we'll post the link somewhere on our YouTube channel. See you next time on XFS.
I'm sorry, Christy can't reach her brain at the moment. She is possessed. Please leave a message after the scream.